A terrible cataclysm occurred in the world, called Opening of the Dungeon, during which various monsters entered the world in order to exterminate all life. The parents of the protagonists named Han Sung-yoon died during this cataclysm, and he, shedding tears of blood from his eyes, vows to avenge the death of his loved ones and become monster hunters to enslave all the monsters to one. 7 years have passed since the beginning of the cataclysm. Khan sits in despair in the memorial park and talks about his expulsion from the hunter training center, where cadets are trained to protect the civilian population from the monsters of the cataclysm. In the center, the coach excludes Khan from further training. The reason for the exclusion was that usually cadets manage to awaken their unique abilities, with the help of which hunters are afraid of monsters, in the first months of their stay at the center, while Khan did not acquire his ability even after 7 years of training at the center. In addition, the mentor does not hesitate to humiliate Khan in every possible way, saying that he is mediocrity and that because of people like him the reputation of the training center suffers greatly. At this time, other cadets behind Khan also did not hesitate to call him a pathetic idiot who stubbornly stands his ground. Sitting in the park, out of anger he squeezes a can of beer in his hand, reproaching himself that during the entire time of preparation he did not succeed in acquiring skills, discovering unique characteristics, and not even raising a single combat stat. At this time, on the other side of the memorial where Khan was sitting, a mother asks her little daughter if she remembers the story of how her father died. The girl in turn tells her mother to the smallest detail how, at the beginning of the cataclysm, when the world was not ready to fight it off, her late father instead of fleeing continued to save people and died like a hero. The mother in turn asked how she should behave in case of difficulties. The girl replied that we should look at difficulties with our heads held high and never give up. It was these words that touched Khan, and he ran headlong, thinking to himself that despite everything, he had not abandoned his training at the training center for all these years. As a result, he ran back to the training center, where the coach opened it to him with the intention of driving Khan away. He in turn begged to give him the last time to help in passing the exam for a hunter. The coach is angry because of the hero's stubbornness and suggested that Khan simply felt sorry for the money he invested in training, and the coach offers to return half the cost of all his training to the guy. Khan also reports that money has nothing to do with it, and before he could finish, the coach hits him so hard that he flies off from there into a pile of garbage. The coach continues to be angry with the guy, continuing to think that he came here only because of the money, calling him garbage. Han, lying wet in the garbage, thinks that if he had a shred of talent, he would not be here. Suddenly, a message appeared before his eyes that a certain test tower was praising his will, and while Khan is at a loss from what is happening, something begins to absorb him from the puddle in which he was sitting, after which he disappears, singing only a loud call for help. Hearing the screams, the coach again ran out into the street with the intention of beating the guy more, but there was no one on the street, because of which he returned back, calling Khan a stunner to himself. Meanwhile, Khan falls into a strange space. As he continues his fall, suddenly a new message appears before his eyes, which says that the Tower of Testing has selected all the strongest people on Earth. Khan thinks to himself that this is the beginning of a new cataclysm. After that, a message about choosing a difficulty appears, which also states that the higher the difficulty is selected, the higher the reward will be, and Khan, thinking that this is his only option, chooses the highest level of difficulty himself. After choosing the difficulty, a new message appears indicating that at the end of the path Khan will be satisfied with the test, and that in the next few seconds he will appear on the first floor of the test. After that, all of Khan's wounds were completely healed, and he ended up in a location resembling a desert. After Khan was at the location of the test, a sword appeared in front of him as the first weapon. Following this, it was reported that the theme of the test is survival, where Han must stay alive for the duration of the test. The reward for passing is the discovery of a unique characteristic. Khan thinks to himself that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him to get the characteristic he has been training for all these years. Moments before picking up the sword, a sand golem appeared from under the sand. After that, a message appeared about the beginning of a training challenge in which the task is to survive within the allotted time despite the attacks of the enemy, after which a timer set to 10 minutes appeared. While Khan was trying to run away from the golem and avoid its attacks, another message appeared in front of Khan indicating that if the challenger fails, the challenger will be killed. While Han was trying to run away from the golem, the thought occurred to him that if he kept running like this, he would not be able to get away from it. Assessing the size of the golem, Khan realized that while the golem seemed rather clumsy, it was surprisingly moving too fast to keep a safe distance for the remainder of the test. Then the Khan realized that this test was designed to find out what actions the applicant would take to try to escape from death or to fight it face to face. While trying to figure out how to defeat the golem, Khan was haunted by frightening images of those at the training center who thought he was a pitiful and hard-nosed idiot. The image of the golem changed to a giant naked trainer, which angered Khan even more. In addition, Khan did not leave the thought that if he continued to run away and did not take any other action, then sooner or later death would overtake him. In the process of escaping from the golem, the thought occurred to Khan that despite passing countless hunter exams, he perfectly knows the whole theory better than any successful hunter, and then Hanu thought that if he couldn't run away, he would have to slay the golem, destroying its core, without which the golem would stop showing any signs of life. And then Khan decides to knock the golem down by any means in order to find the right moment to inflict critical hits on its core. To do this, Khan runs to one of the sandy mountains, and when the golem is almost at its very top, Khan makes a high jump, which causes the golem to lose balance and slowly but surely begin to roll down the hill, while Khan thrust his sword into mountain and held onto it so as not to fall under the golem. After the golem stopped rolling down the hill, Hen made a few more jumps to get as close as possible to the location of the golem's core. Once Khan was near the core, he began to strike at the golem's core in order to overpower it. But the core turned out to be stronger than expected, and when Khan began to swing again, the golem woke up. Just as the Khan was about to deliver the final blow to the core, the golem rose to its feet and grabbed the Khan in the palm of his hand, and while the golem was holding Khan, the image of a giant coach appeared before Khan's eyes instead of the golem, who insulted Khan in every possible way, calling him a stubborn and miserable idiot who does not know his place in this world. In a fit of rage, Khan yelled for him to shut up and threw his sword point straight into the golem's core, dealing a final decisive blow to it. The golem screamed loudly in pain and its body began to crumble into small grains of sand. After defeating the golem, a message appeared stating that the core of the sand golem had been defeated. After that, a message appeared that the test was completed and the remaining time took 7 minutes, 8 seconds. After completing the test, Khan couldn't believe that he was able to defeat the golem despite the fact that he was only one step away from defeat. Soon, more messages appeared indicating that the first floor of the Tower of Testing had been passed. Also, the next message contained the text for which this test was passed, namely the message about unlocking the unique characteristic Necromancy Grade F. Also, as a reward, Khan was given 1500 points in an additional E+ rank accelerated regeneration skill. Khan was simply overjoyed because for all these 7 years of hard training, he received nothing but ridicule and humiliation from all his entourage, and now, after so many years with blood and sweat, he finally received his coveted reward in the form of a unique characteristic. Now Khan had everything he needed to become a real monster hunter, but he also understood that he could lose all this in an instant if he made a mistake at least on one of the subsequent tests. While Khan thought about all this, at the place of death of the golem, his core awakened and began to absorb some kind of dark matter. After touching the core, a message appeared in front of Khan about the activation of the unique characteristic Necromancy Grade F, and a pop-up window with the ability to activate the unique characteristic. Khan realized that the black mist was his unique stat, which he could use to absorb the golem's soul and use it as his staff. In the message about the proposal to absorb the spirit of the sand golem, Khan without too much thought contrast yes, after which this dark matter headed towards Khan and penetrate into his body. Golem's soul was absorbed. A message appeared before Khan's eyes about the successful absorption of the golem soul and about an increase in a certain mastery staff. After the absorption process, something black flew out of Khan's chest, after which a message appeared with a counter which indicated the number of souls in possession 1/5. Khan immediately sensed the golem soul which he absorbed, However, he was haunted by the thought of how exactly the absorbed souls were stored, and even more incomprehensible how he would use his unique characteristic in practice. After that, a hint surfaced saying that Han could level up his stats with the help of absorbed spirits, and several more reports of increasing his strength and stamina stats. Khan really felt how his stats are growing, which still did not grow in all these 7 years of his heart training. A message appeared in front of Khan about his new unique characteristic. Its essence was the ability to absorb the souls of the dead and complete and direct control over them. Also, among the additional effects, it was indicated how you can download a unique characteristic and the ability to store and use absorbed souls if necessary. During this time, Han was haunted by the thought that now he could return to the Hunter Training Center, has the Hunter exam, and become a full-fledged hunter. At this time, an unknown portal appeared in front of Khan and a message about moving to the waiting room. Without thinking twice, he entered that portal, as he simply had no choice where to go next. As soon as Khan entered the portal, he found himself in a very large room where the floor, walls, and ceiling were made entirely of large gray bricks. Immediately after he exited the portal and entered the room, he felt the full pain of the injuries he received during the test. However, he was surrounded by a certain magical aura that healed all of his injuries in an instant. After being healed, he was able to look around the room and noticed a single bed in the distance, which greatly puzzled Khan, as such a room was too large for one simple single bed. Khan went to the bed and immediately laid down on it, joyful and very tired. As Khan laid down on the bed, he thought about what would happen next, whether he could get out of the tower, why exactly he was one of the applicants for the tests. Khan's thoughts were interrupted by a new message which talked about the possibility of using some menu items, among which were the item shop, information, community, inventory, and challenge. The transition to the desired point was carried out by pronouncing the command aloud. Then Khan realized that the faster he passed these tests, the faster he could leave the tower of testing, and immediately chose the test team. After that, a message appeared that the next test would be available only in a day. Khan's hunches that he would have to go through more tests only proved to be true. After that, he decided to open a community item, which was a group chat of applicants who were also sent to complete tests, and in almost every message, people wrote that their stats were reset to the initial levels and that no one understood how they ended up here and how they get out of here. Among all these messages, there were also several messages from which one can understand that the Tower of Testing is taking not only hunters but also ordinary people. At one point, a certain administrator entered the chat who temporarily put a ban on adding new messages except for him. The administrator himself notified everyone in the chat that he had a message for those who passed the training test. This alarmed Khan. He suggested that he might write something very important now, and he focused on not missing anything that he was about to write. The administrator wrote that the points that the applicants received are the main currency with which they will be able to buy things in the store. Also, these points can be exchanged and transferred to other applicants in the tower. The challengers won't be able to get even a drop of water if they don't have a point, and these points are earned exclusively during the tests. After that, the administrator left the chat and removed the ban on not adding messages. After receiving a call from the administrator, Khan realized that in order to continue being tested, he would have to adjust to life in this tower, and if you also remember that without glasses he will not be able to buy a drop of water, then he has no choice but to pass all the tests and earn these points. After that, the thought came over his head that if he were immediately returned to his world, he could immediately become a hunter. Also, Khan was not satisfied with the fact that he only has a sword out of all the combat equipment, and therefore he decided to familiarize himself with the assortment of the storm. After carefully selecting the items he needed in the store, Khan immediately began training. While he was training, he thought that everyone who was thrown into the Tower of Trial had lost all their stats, and that they should master the skills they once received. And if he does not train hard, he will never catch up with them in terms of leveling. While he was thinking about all this, his injuries that he received during training were restored thanks to the magic of the break room. After training, Khan decided to have a snack. He opened the inventory which contained the things he bought in the store. When he ate, a timer appeared counting down 17 minutes until the start of the second test. The less time left before the start of the test, the less messages appeared in the community with every minute. Khan motivated himself more and more to win the next challenge. There are only a few seconds left before the start of the test. A window appears to confirm whether applicants are ready for the next test. Compresses yes and finds himself in a forest location. The challenge level is still high. Khan is surprised by the fact that after the desert immediately comes the forest. A message appears in which the type of task is indicated murder, namely, you need to kill the local leader of the orcs in the allotted time. Khan comes to a cliff from which a small settlement of orcs can be seen. Khan realized that he would need to get into this settlement and kill the leader of the orcs. Hiding in the bushes near the orc settlement, Khan began to develop his plan to eliminate the leader of the orcs. Assessing the situation in his fighting skills, Khan realized that under normal circumstances he would not be able to defeat the orcs alone, since this required at least a team. After several hours of thinking about his strategy, Khan decided to start by collecting some logs, setting them on fire, and placing them in his inventory, where they also continue to burn. After the inventory was filled with the required number of torches, Khan began to monitor which orc would go where at what time, which orcs would not be in place, which orcs could leave the territory of the settlement, and other data. Khan's whole plan is to set fire to the orc settlement and exterminate each orc one by one, thereby getting to the leader. First, Khan waited for the moment when the orc sentry left his place, and at that moment he threw several torches into the village so that the fire began to consume the entire settlement, and until the village burned down completely, he had to wait until several orcs ran to the nearest reservoir. As soon as one orc worker ran for water to extinguish the fire, Khan killed him from the bushes, simultaneously absorbing his soul with his characteristic. At this time, an orc sentry appeared behind the Khan, who immediately attacked the Khan, but he managed to repel the blow with the help of a shield and the imprisoned spirit of the killed orc. After that, Khan's stats increased, allowing him to defeat the orc sentinel and absorb his soul, increasing his stats once again. While Khan was heading towards the settlement, 3 orc workers appeared on his way, behind which he could see an orc sentry covering the leader of the orcs. Khan eliminated the orc workers without delay. At first, Khan planned to immediately attack the leader, slipping past the sentry, but the sentry immediately rushed at Khan, leaving the leader alone, which did not prevent Khan from defeating the sentry, piercing his chest with his sword through and through. Left all alone, the leader used his most powerful fire spell to finally finish off the Khan, but despite such a destructive and powerful fire magic, Khan was not only able to resist the attack of the leader and not receive visible damage, but also received the fire resistance skill and the achievement the one who withstood the flame. Before the leader had time to cast his spell again, Khan cut off the leader's hands with lightning speed, from which he fled in confusion to his dwelling. Khan slowly but surely followed him. As soon as the Khan entered the chief's dwelling, he saw the following picture. The chief pressed 2 small and frightened cubs of orcs to himself with his severed hands, and a moment later, a third cub quietly grabbed Khan's leg, trembling all over and in tears, begging for mercy in his orc language. Khan was immediately flooded with sad memories of how in the first minutes of the cataclysm he lost his parents, and as soon as Khan had time to react to the actions of a small orc at his feet, who took out a knife from his bosom and swung it, Khan in turn managed to hit the small orc on the head with the hilt of his sword. As the Khan neutralized the remaining orcs, including the leader, he kept saying to himself that he would not stop slaying the monsters until he had exterminated them all. After all this, the test was successfully passed, and Khan again found himself in the waiting room in which all his wounds were healed, and he himself began to study the community. When Khan opened the tower community, he noticed that the number of members had halved. Khan also noticed, among the pile of messages, he noticed a message from one of the applicants which says that with the help of a letter with a question, you can find out how to return back to Earth. And then it dawned on Khan that all this time he could just send the letter with a question to the administrator and thereby find out how to get home. After this message, the applicants immediately began to write various questions to the administrator and share the answers in the community chat. As a result, a lot of useful information has accumulated in the community. As it turned out, after passing the 5th floor, temporary return stones appear in the assortment of the store, using which you can return to the Earth for several days, and when you overcome the 8th floor, a large-scale expansion occurs, and the store will have items that can return the applicant to the Earth forever. Han looked at his stat level and realized that if he returned to Earth with his current skills and stats, he could immediately become a rank hunter. However, he understood that the 8th floor, after which he could return home, was still very far away, but he did not despair, because looking at his stats, he realized that he had come close to the average hunter standards when his stats did not grow on the ground for the entire time of his training. After that, Khan began to absorb the souls that he received during the previous test, after which his stats became even higher. Khan received such a large increase in strength that when he tried to run up, he crashed into the wall opposite, leaving a deep mark in it in the form of a silhouette. After that, Khan decided to upgrade his equipment arsenal with the points he received after completing the previous challenge. In the store, he acquired a new shield since the previous one was irreparably damaged, a new sword, and a new combat cloak which has the ability to increase the character's speed by 1 minute with a 24-hour ability cooldown. After updating his equipment, Khan immediately began training, thinking that he would become so strong that no hunter could match him. The day came for the 3rd test, which took place in a cave. The theme of the test was a duel. A timer message popped up in front of Khan saying that the enemy would appear in 10 seconds. Khan was on the alert as the enemy, like the golem, could appear from anywhere. As soon as the timer was reset, Khan's rival appeared, a dark guard who managed to attack Khan almost immediately after the appearance. But despite this, Khan managed to react and increase the distance to the enemy. After healing his wound with the ability, Khan noticed that the opponent almost completely copies all of Khan's actions. To convince his theory, Khan tried to stab the guard, and as soon as he did, the guard healed his wounds and rushed to attack with the same tactics as Khan. Khan's hypothesis was confirmed, and he decided to play on his weak swordsmanship skills to defeat the enemy. Khan was at a loss that the enemy was able to pump so quickly in such a short time. Then Khan decides to activate the ability of his cloak to increase the speed of movement so as not to drag out the battle and defeat the guard as quickly as possible. While Khan was attacking the guard, he managed to severely damage his arm, making the guard easier to defeat. However, the guard in turn was able to cut off Khan's right hand completely, and now Khan cannot attack the guard with his sword. Despite this, Khan tries not to pay attention to the lack of a hand, and at first sight, the crazy idea came to him to finish off an opponent with the help of a shield, and while his ability to accelerate was gone, he rushed towards the enemy with lightning speed to knock him down. After a successful ramming, Khan continued to beat the enemy with his shield without any regrets until he finally died. After several such heavy blows to the enemy, the test was counted as passed. Khan returned to the waiting room, and all his wounds were healed, including his severed hand, which became so strong that after hitting the wall, a crater was formed in it, which was even larger than Khan himself. Han noticed that during the absorption of the soul of the doppelganger, its consistency was much higher compared to the souls that he absorbed in previous tests. As soon as the Khan absorbed the soul, his characteristic mastery increased to 100, which automatically increased the rank of the unique characteristic from rank F to rank E. Now, among the additional effects, another one has appeared which indicates that now Khan can now acquire one of the skills that are sealed in the soul with a certain probability. Khan was very pleased because before that he had not imagined that he would have such a strong characteristic, although he also understood that he would only acquire new skills from his enemies with a certain probability, and he needed to check and practice what the approximate probability of activating such an effect was. After passing the 3rd test of the tower, the situation of the waiting room for Khan became more familiar, so he felt at home here. When Khan opened the communities, he saw messages in which the applicants were already discussing the next test, which, as the applicants suggest, should not be individual like the previous tests, but combined. Khan did not fully understand what exactly the combined challenge was and suggested that teams of several applicants would be formed. However, one of the contenders was responded to one of the messages with a question where it was specified that the theme of the 4th challenge would be competition, which also suggests that the challengers may have to fight against each other in the next challenge. Khan was somewhat surprised because he did not imagine that in the next test there was a possibility that he would have to fight with other applicants. The day of the fourth test arrived. It consisted in the fact that in order to successfully pass it, applicants need to have time to defeat the Goblin King in 24 hours. If the applicants do not have time to pass the test on time, or if all the applicants from one team die, then the test will fail, which means they will be removed from the tests. The Khan found himself with 2 more challengers in command near the Goblin King's fortress. He felt embarrassed because the last few days he had only crossed paths with monsters. The first member of the team introduced himself as Lee Hae-young, who specializes in supporting the team, who was one of the E-rank hunters before the trials. Suddenly, she was rudely interrupted by the second member of the team. He introduced himself as Lee Sung-hoon, who was a specialized close combat fighter and underground was a D-rank hunter. Khan was somewhat surprised by the behavior and manner of communication because on the ground, hunters of rank D were always extremely polite. Khan introduced himself to the team, saying that he also practiced mostly close combat and that he was only taking training courses on the ground. Hun was not satisfied with the fact that Khan was only a cadet, and with contempt for his partner, he ordered him not to interfere during the test. Khan in turn spoke out to his comrade that despite who he was on Earth, he was quite capable of coping with the role assigned to him. However, Hun only began to despise Khan even more, threatening Khan that if he did not help the team, he would kill him himself. Khan was not in any way frightened or hurt by Khan's words, because during all the time he trained on the ground, he repeatedly became the victim of repeated ridicule and insults from other cadets in the training center. Meanwhile, Han was walking towards the fortress, telling Khan to cover him from behind from the low-level monsters. Khan was beside himself with anger because Hun not only insults him but also makes himself out to be a leader that everyone else should indulge. As soon as the gates of the fortress opened, several goblins immediately ran out from there who first of all set about attacking Hun. He, even in an attempt to fight off the opponent, did not stop commanding the Khan so that he began to attack the enemy. At this time, she tried her best to provide Hun with support in the form of skill enhancement spells, but this was not enough for him to give at least some rebuff. Khan decides to help Hun fight off the hordes of enemies, leaving Lee alone. Lee in turn was very worried that Han had decided to leave her. However, when she turned back, thinking that the enemy surrounded her, she was surprised at how Han had left behind a bunch of defeated enemies. At this time, Hun was almost completely defeated by the enemy goblins, never ceasing to think about how bad luck he had with his partners, and when his weapon was knocked out of his hands, he was already expecting his death. However, contrary to his expectations, Khan managed to kill the goblin at the last moment, which was almost able to defeat Hun. After that, Khan told Hun to leave the case to him, and Khan was able to eliminate all the surrounding goblins in a few moments, while receiving the new achievement Goblin Hunter. At this time, Hong was shocked at how an ordinary cadet handled the crowd of enemies so masterfully. Meanwhile, Han, while absorbing goblin souls, unlocked one of the absorbed goblin skills, Sentinel Sensitivity, which widened his visual field of view, giving him a huge tactical advantage. As the team regrouped, Hong expressed his surprise at how such a cadet could handle this bunch of goblins, judging his victory as nothing more than luck. Further, Khan said that he was now the head of the team and he would lead the operation. There was no objection from anyone about this, and Hana signed home the task of protecting Lee while she would provide various support to the team and orient them on the ground. Once the team members received all the necessary instructions, they headed through the goblin settlement towards the king's castle, continuing to defend themselves from the attacking goblins. Several hours had passed since the beginning of the test, and the goblins began to come across to Khan's team less and less, and while they were walking, they came across a fountain next to which were several dead bodies of goblins. Apparently, these goblins were attacked quite recently, which indicates that one of the teams has already managed to catch up with them, which means that Khan and his partners need to hurry, because if the other team manages to complete the test before them, then for the rest the quest will be counted as failed, which in turn leads to the death of members of other teams. Khan saw in the distance how a member of the other team, Li Shai and Henim, was fighting a group of goblins, killing each of them with maximum efficiency, while his teammates praised his fighting skills. After Henim took down the last group of goblins, he ordered one of his teammates, Lee Jihu, to open a room for one last fight with the Goblin King. However, when trying to get to the place of the final battle, a huge magical barrier appeared through which it was impossible to pass in any way. As it turned out, the fight with the Goblin King could not start until there was only one team left among all the teams. One of Henem's teammates noticed Khan's team heading in their direction nearby, which Henem didn't like very much. Khan stated that he would land Henem alone while Lee would apply an agility buff to him. Billy gave Khan an agility boost, and he went into battle. Khan was completely confident in his victory because after absorbing the souls of those goblins that he and his team defeated, his stats and combat skills became much more than any average hunter. Khan rushed at full speed towards Henem, preparing to attack him. At that moment, Henem ordered Lee Ji-Hu to activate his defensive ability, creating a huge defensive barrier which had him easily broke through the barrier, killing both of Henem's teammates in the process. Hong and Lee are shocked by what they see. Him is furious at how Khan destroyed the defensive barrier so easily and at how ruthlessly he finished off his comrades. Moments later, Han and Henem were fighting furiously with each other, trying to inflict at least some damage on their opponent. Han was surprised at how accurately and sharply Henem deflected all of his attacks, and even when Khan slipped behind his opponent to defeat him, Kevin did not even turn around to repel his attack with his dagger. Paying attention to Hamon's eyes, Khan realized that he could see all of his future blows, and then the Khan undertakes to throw a shield in front of the enemy so that he could not see the further attacks of the Khan, and as soon as the shield was in the face of Chemin, Khan manages to deliver a decisive blow to him. After that, a message appeared about the completion of a special task, and after passing the main test, all team members will be credited with an additional reward. At the end of the fight, Khan's teammates noticed that he was trembling all over, nervously suggesting that he was in shock from the first killing of a man. After a short silence, Khan and his companions went to the place of the battle with the Goblin King, which apparently was even easier than the battle with Kevin. After completing the test, Hong decided to go back to the waiting room first, leaving Han and Lee alone. During a short conversation, Lee tried to calm Han down a bit by explaining to him that he only did what he had to do, that she would have joined the fight instead of Han anyway. After these words, Khan actually felt a little better at heart. After the end of the heart-to-heart talk, before leaving for the waiting room, Lee sends a friend request to Han, saying that she couldn't have passed the fourth trial without him and that she owes him a lot. In the end, Lee told Khan that when he was on the ground, he should find her at the White Hunters Guild. Left alone at the scene of the battle, Khan had to make a decision whether he should absorb the human soul, as he was afraid that he was about to cross the line of his capabilities, and he decided that despite the fact that he did not intend to kill people further, but in the case when he had no other choice, he was ready to kill further. Before returning to the waiting room, Han mused that his desire to become a hunter also had an ambition to become as strong as possible through the tests of the tower, and would not stop until he had passed all of its tests. Khan returned to the waiting room, after which the system expansion took place, after which a test report card appeared in front of Khan where the rating of all the remaining applicants was displayed. First, Khan introduced a new nickname in which he changed it from his own name to Hunter. After that, a rating of the best applicants appeared in front of the Khan. Also wanted to know if he was in this ranking, where he, as it turned out, is in 16th place. Khan was pleasantly surprised because his performance in the rankings turned out to be much higher than he expected. A message appeared on top of the rating window stating that all applicants who managed to get into the top 50 will receive a unique status Pioneer, which will give certain advantages when passing the 8th test. Also, if applicants can hold this status until the 8th trial, they will receive the Halo privilege. Khan decided to put the status issue aside for later and began absorbing the souls of Kemen, his companions, and the Goblin King, feeling the crossing of any human possibility. With the available points, Khan purchased a return stone in the store, which can send the Khan back to Earth for 3 days, after which he will again be in the waiting room. Khan wondered if his progress would continue when he returned to Earth, and Khan gleefully activated the return stone. Upon activation of the Stone of Return, Khan was sucked into the portal in which the absorption process took place, after which he should be on the ground. After the process was completed, Khan ended up in the room on his bed, and the first thing he decided to do was sleep off, because compared to the bed from the waiting room, the bed in his room seemed like heaven. However, he changed his mind and decided to first clean himself up, but when he got out of bed, all the equipment that he had on the last test lay at his feet, and Khan suggested that soon the number of people returning to Earth would increase, which would entail the price of equipment on the market. Khan thinks to get rid of the equipment as soon as possible before the prices for it become too low, but the problem was that until he became a hunter, he couldn't sell anything, and then Khan decides to call his coach about the exam. But when Khan got through the coach, he suggested that Khan apply for a refund of tuition fees at the center. Khan insisted that he was not interested in money either. Instead, he tries to talk the trainer into helping him pass the hunter's exam. The coach, however, gives a sharp refusal, reminding Khan of how he passed the certification at the lowest F rank with a stretch, and in the end, Khan agrees with the coach to conduct an exam for a hunter. After taking a bath, Khan noticed that along with his stats and skills, his physique also got a lot better. However, Khan needed to hurry up in order to make it to the exam. As soon as Khan left the house, he met a neighbor who lived in a neighboring apartment and wished her a good day, although the neighbor did not immediately pay attention to the guy and also said hello in return. And only a little later, the neighbor noticed that her neighbor had changed a lot during his absence. After an unsuccessful attempt to catch a free taxi to get to the training center, Khan decides to get there by jumping over the roofs of high-rise buildings just like a real superhero. As soon as Khan got to the exam site, he met his coach, discussing for a while what changes had happened to Khan in recent days. Soon after, Kim In, Wuhan's examiner, came to see him who would grade him in the exam. Kim informed Combat at the instructor's request they had decided to skip the theoretical part of the exam for Khan and proceed directly to the practical test, after which they all proceeded to the exam site. Khan ended up in a special room for the exam, and the coach and examiner were in a special place in this room from where they would observe Khan's actions. Kim suggested that Khan choose a difficulty level from 1 to 10 that Khan wishes to complete. Khan immediately remembered how before that, in every exam on the minimum difficulty, he was overcome by an ordinary goblin. The examiner hoped that Khan would choose the very first difficulty. However, contrary to his expectations, Khan chooses the 10th, the highest difficulty. The examiner was shocked, considering Khan just a sick person who cannot calculate his abilities. When the exam began, a large firebird appeared in the room which imposed a slow-motion effect on Khan. In addition, Khan's weapon began to crack, as the examiner deliberately ruined the weapon before the start of the exam in the hope that Khan would never pass the exam. However, there was neither fear nor self-doubt in Khan's eyes at this time. The coach remembered himself at his age, recalling how he felt the best, how he began to feel the difference between himself and his peers, how he concluded to himself that sooner or later a person gives up one way or another, giving up all attempts to achieve your own to become like everyone else, to become the best of all, to become the best. Meanwhile, in the exam, Khan's weapon completely fell into disrepair, and Khan began to suspect that the weapon was unsuitable for serious combat from the very beginning, suspecting the trainer and examiner of this setup. But despite the broken weapon, Khan was even happy to demonstrate his fighting skills in this world in practice. A little later, Khan uses his new instant acceleration skill, which sends him flying into the ceiling, after which he jumps towards the bird and stabs the remnants of his sword right into its eye. However, the length of the sword was not enough to completely defeat the bird, and Khan decides to tear off the tile from the floor and throw it directly at the bird, thereby cutting the bird's head into 2 parts and flying between the trainer and the examiner. After that, the bird was overcome, and the exam was passed successfully. Khan then turned towards the trainer and the examiner to make sure they were alive, and finally, after so many years of training and thanks to the skills gained in the Tower of Trials, Khan finally gets his hunter qualification. Meanwhile, in the corridor, the coach is angry at the examiner that Khan was able to pass the exam because according to his calculations, he should have failed the exam in the first seconds after the start. The examiner was also shocked because according to Khan, he should not pass the exam, and took it all as a very successful joke of the coach. While the trainer and the examiner were arguing with each other, Khan left the office with the news that he had received his C-rank hunter qualification. Khan noticed that the coach was beside himself, and Khan decided to ask him what happened. And before the coach could answer, Khan reminded the coach that when the coach resigned when he was at rank C, he kept reminding him of how the coach considered him trash. At the same time, Khan did not hesitate to call the coach himself a scumbag. The coach, however, could not stand it and, in a fit of rage, attacked Khan. However, Khan not only managed to dodge the coach's blow, but he himself was able to inflict a couple of heavy blows on him. After this incident, the examiner went outside with Han, offering him a job for the Hunters Association for a solid salary of 1,000,000 won, but Khan reproached the examiner that the difficulty was deliberately adjusted by him, and despite such a large amount of money, Khan refused his offer and sent the examiner to hell. After a couple of days, rumors about the existence of a certain testing tower had already begun to appear on the ground. However, this did not bother Khan at all because with the help of his status as a hunter on the ground, he was able to get a good amount for selling his equipment even before the price of it had time to drop. With mere seconds left before returning to the tower of testing, Khan was already impatient to wait for the moment when he began to pass the tests of the tower again. After completing the transfer process, Khan was again in the waiting room, and all the money he received on Earth after selling the equipment ended up in his inventory, which once again confirmed the theory that things can be freely moved between worlds. Also, after appearing in the tower, Khan unlocked the Eye of Truth ability, which after using mana showed all the information about the opponent. In addition, this ability allowed the wearer whether the interlocutor was telling the truth or a lie. Khan was very pleased with this ability because with the help of it, it would be much easier to determine his combat advantages and weaknesses of the enemy, the data on which would allow him to fight even more effectively. After acquiring a new skill, Khan began to acquire new combat equipment, among which he took a closer look at the Scout Hunter Shield and the Thunder Sword, which with a certain probability could inflict additional electrical damage to the enemy. After a short warm-up, Khan proceeded to complete the 5th hunt challenge, the main objective of which was to defeat the werewolf boss in the Wolf Scourge, and the additional reward for completing was the werewolf bandage. Khan appeared at the foot of the mountain, where he was already surrounded by a pack of wild wolves who almost immediately attacked Khan. Khan, with lightning speed, exterminated almost all the wolves, one of which he threw away from him at a decent distance. Near this wolf, a pack of giant wolves appeared, surpassing the previously defeated wolves at times, which immediately surrounded Khan, preparing to attack him. Khan, never ceasing to be surprised by the new surprises of the tower, rushed into battle with the wolves, exterminating each of them in turn. The fight, some of Khan's abilities were upgraded, while he thought he shouldn't forget about other skills as well. After such a fierce battle, Khan absorbed countless souls of fallen wolves, but Khan did not leave the thought that the ability of his weapon appeared much less often than indicated in the storm. And then Khan was in for an unpleasant surprise. In the gorge that led to the lair of the werewolf boss, there were corpses of giant wolves, and with the help of the Eye of Truth, Khan deduced that someone used their skill here, which meant that someone was trying to prevent Khan from completing the test. Some sounds were heard in one of the caves, and Khan went to the sound, and the dead body of the werewolf boss flew from the cave at him, because of which there was a message about the invasion of Khan's test. And because of this, the priorities of the test were changed to kill an invading pretender. This applicant turned out to be a paladin of impressive size who apparently was not even from the earth, but from another dimension. From this, Khan concluded that the tower is located in several dimensions at once. The paladin was surprised that the Khan was still alive, seeing him as a pretender from an underdeveloped world. Khan realized that now he must defeat the intruder. Khan is surprised by the fact that the priorities of the test can change, but he was even more surprised that the target of the test can be a different applicant. But Khan was also comforted by the fact that despite the intervention of another challenger, the test was not counted as a failure. At this time, the paladin made attempts in every possible way to scare the Khan, threatening him with cruel reprisals, after which he rushed to attack the Khan. In an attempt to confuse the opponent, Khan decides to throw the carcass of the werewolf boss towards the paladin, and the paladin cuts the body, distracting from the Khan and losing sight of him. At that moment, Khan was preparing to stab his opponent in the back, but unfortunately his sword was badly damaged, unable to penetrate such heavy armor. After such a blow, the paladin managed to reveal the location of the Khan, after which he made such a powerful blow with his huge sword that the Khan's shield immediately cracked into small pieces, also throwing the Khan himself and breaking his arm. The paladin was greatly surprised that Khan managed to repel his attack. Khan, on the other hand, tried to start a dialogue with the enemy in order to find out how he managed to get into the test. While the paladin was making fun of Khan's abilities, he mentioned some sort of floor injection. At this time, Khan wondered why he was named in his test. The paladin only wanted to quickly end this conversation and finally get rid of the Khan. He in turn decided to still find out from the paladin what floor penetration is. The paladin, without thinking twice, nevertheless said that after the expansion system in the store, a ticket for a floor penetration becomes available, which allows the owner, when activated, to be introduced into the tests of other applicants. Khan also decided to ask the paladin if he was summoned by a testing tower from another dimension. After the paladin confirmed Khan's guesses, he decided to check with the Eye of Truth if he was telling the truth, and as it turned out, the paladin was not lying. The paladin only got angrier at the Khan for judging the paladin for his actions and words. The Khan only provokes the paladin more aggressively. Meanwhile, Khan explained to the paladin that he had the skill of immunity to pain, and that he intentionally kept the broken one in an unnatural position, because if he let it go, the accelerated regeneration skill would instantly work because the paladin could tell Khan everything only if he looks as helpless as possible. After that, Khan instantly healed his hand and took up a whole sword, while he himself absorbed the souls of the wolves he had killed earlier, thereby increasing his stats. Paladin was very surprised that Khan had a unique characteristic, prohibitively high stats, and a bunch of other useful skills and abilities despite the fact that this was only the 5th floor of the tests. Meanwhile, Khan manages to dodge his opponent's powerful attacks, which were under the influence of an aura skill that made the paladin's attacks even stronger. At that moment, Khan, under the influence of the speed boost, tried to strike at the paladin's armor, provoking the appearance of a sword effect that sent an electric current through the entire paladin's armor, thereby significantly weakening him. The paladin fell to the cold ground, unable to stand up or make any other movement. Khan was lucky that the enemy's armor had no resistance to electric types of attacks. The paladin was deeply shocked by the fact that he was able to defeat a challenger who was inferior to him in terms of leveling, who among other things also had a bunch of all sorts of powerful skills and abilities. Khan in turn began to reproach the paladin for relying only on his pump skill and powerful armor, while forgetting about other important combat factors. As soon as the Khan was about to deliver the final blow to the enemy, he tried to dissuade him from this, offering in return to clarify to the Khan everything that he himself knows. Khan was not interested in this offer, not seeing any need for it, after which Khan plunged his sword into the paladin's throat. After the body ceased to give any signs of life, it began to gradually disintegrate into dust since the paladin was from another dimension and Khan, not missing an opportunity, absorbs his soul, a rank 3 absolute skill, and 11,000 points on top as a reward. Khan was pleasantly surprised that instead of the promised C-ranked bounty, he received a rank bounty. Apparently the level of the outsider was high enough to receive such a high-ranking award. After that, the test was scored and Khan returned to the waiting room again. Khan was haunted by the thought that the tower never ceased to amaze him with its trials. Khan had the opportunity to write 5 letters with questions, and he decided to send one such letter in order to find out more about the implementation floor and the opportunity to deliberately find out about the beginning of the invasion. Khan got an answer pretty quickly which stated that using the floor penetration you can get into the challenger's test, the difference with which was 10 or less floors, and you can use the penetration only after passing the 8th test. Also, the invasion is only possible in personal tests, while it is impossible to get into special or combined tests. However, the second half of the reply letter was not accessible due to the low level of the floor, so the ticket to send the question letter was not used up. Khan was somewhat pleased that the ticket was not written off. After reading the letter, Khan opened the inventory and took out the paladin's broken shield and the chest of restoration which he took from the ground to repair the broken shield. Khan also used a stone of purity which replaces the hunters with a bath and other personal hygiene procedures. Next, Khan decides to check the applicant rankings to see if any positions have changed, and Khan was shocked by the fact that he was already in third place in the overall ranking. Following this, Khan is going to see what's new in the community, and as soon as he opened the chat, he was disappointed when he saw messages in the chat where some applicants gave advice on killing and robbing other applicants, while others insulted and humiliated each other in every possible way. There was a feeling that the chat was no longer people, but animals ready to tear each other for the opportunity to earn achievements. Among the messages was one that said that the challenger who wrote about the details of the fourth dungeon had changed his nickname to Sudagonu. Khan even then hid the idea that this man deliberately created an aggravating atmosphere in the community. The sixth test began, the theme of which was occupation. Applicants need to have time to capture one of any strongholds in the allotted time. The test took place on the surface of the sea, completely covered with a kind of network of wooden bridges. After the end of the selection of applicants, some time passed, and Khan's partners did not appear. However, a spear appeared from the portal as if someone was about to attack. Khan managed to grab a spear and pull his partner out for it. Khan was frustrated that his partner tried to finish him secretly despite the beginning of the test. He was later revealed to have tried to kill Khan for the achievement, as killing is according to him the easiest way to get them. Khan was at a loss that the applicants were trying to feud with each other for the sake of some kind of achievement. Contrary to Khan's words, the partner only showed how teammates try to destroy each other without any regret. In the distance, a guy and a girl from opposite teams were seen making a truce with each other, and almost immediately, the girl does not miss the opportunity to plunge a knife into the guy. While Khan is distracted by all the chaos surrounding him, his partner takes advantage of the situation and swings his sword at Khan in the hope of chopping off his head, but to the surprise of the guy, Khan manages to dodge the blow and at the same moment kill the traitor. Then Khan decides that now he will also kill applicants, as this is a unique opportunity to pump his unique characteristic even faster, but only those who themselves rush to attack Khan. Meanwhile, at one of the strongholds, a waterbender was seen creating a large water ball to protect himself from enemy attacks and hold the stronghold itself. It was this point that Khan decided to capture. The mage noticed how one of the rivals was running towards him at high speed, but he was not even afraid, hoping that his water barrier would withstand any blows. But after a couple of seconds, Khan was able to break through the barrier and take down his opponent with a kick. Although Khan himself was not very happy with the fact that he had to kill the magician. In the meantime, one of the pretenders noticed how quickly Khan had taken the stronghold, and after telling a few more pretenders about it, they all headed towards Khan's point. 1. According to the test rules, a strong point is considered captured if the team members hold it for 10 minutes. If there is at least one opponent at the place of the point, the capture timer will be interrupted and will be interrupted until there are no opponents left at the place of the point. As the Khan waited for the end of the takeover, he wondered how low a person was willing to go for some personal gain, especially in low-ranking aspirants. At this time, a group of opponents were at the site of the stronghold, thereby interrupting its capture by the Khan. One of the enemies asked to draw Khan's attention to the fact that the test provides for teams of 2 applicants each, while their team consisted of 4 participants. Khan already understood that with such a squad, it would be much more efficient to earn achievements. The team captain was surprised by Khan's ingenuity, after which he was ordered to exterminate him. After that, 2 opponents rushed towards Khan. One of the enemies activated his ability on Khan, which directed all the pain experienced by the owner to Khan, after which the enemy plunged a knife into his hand, which caused Khan to drop the sword from his hand. At this time, one of the opponents who rushed to Khan splashed Khan with water from the sea, because in this test, water upon contact with the applicant lowered some of his stats. Another opponent meanwhile swung his weapon at Khan, but he managed to dodge the blow, grab his head, and slam him into the floor, thereby killing his opponent. The rest of the applicants were shocked by what they saw. At this moment, he completed the achievement of killing his enemy with 1 hit, gaining a new skill that increased Khan's stats if the opponent's stats were lower than Khan's. The second attacker had stats lower than Khan's, and he was able to dodge the opponent's blow and disable him with a powerful kick to the head. The remaining applicants were greatly frightened, and the captain made the decision to cut off his comrade's leg in order to somehow slow down Khan, who was still under the effect of the enemy's skill. The situation was saved by Khan's skill, which slightly reduced his pain, and Khan could somehow move on. The captain of the enemy team began to threaten Khan that if he did not surrender, the captain would kill his own partner. Then Khan decides to independently kill the applicant whose pain is felt by Khan in order to remove the negative effect from himself as soon as possible. After killing the enemy, Khan fell to his knees from a sore throat, where he threw the shield towards the opponent. Taking advantage of the moment, the captain of the enemy team decides to finish off Khan, but instead of dodging, Khan manages to catch the blade of the opponent's sword with his bare hands. After that, Khan manages to ask the captain away, holding part of the enemy's sword blade in his hands, thereby damaging the enemy's weapon. Having time to finish off the enemy and get additional points for obtaining another achievement. At this time, one of the teams manages to capture one of the strongholds. During this time, Khan was only happy for them because despite the numerous deaths during this test, these two were able to save the team and successfully complete it. The test was counted as successfully completed for all remaining challengers. Khan in turn blunted the absorption of the souls of the enemies he was able to defeat, increasing the mastery of his unique characteristic to the rank of D. Khan ended up in the waiting room, and the function of viewing achievements became available to him, among which Khan had quite a few achievements for killing. Also among these are the S rank achievement that Khan received after returning from the Earth back to the tower, from which the conclusion followed that returning to his world is far from easy. Also, in the description of the achievements, it was indicated under what conditions the achievement was received and what reward was awarded for it, among which were new skills, stat increases, and additional points. F-great to B-great reward similar to the gift Khan received after completing the final challenge, and when the Khan opened the box with the gift, a strange creature suddenly jumped out of it, resembling something in between a small dog and an orc cup. Khan tried to catch a small monster, but the first attempts to capture were unsuccessful because despite such a clumsy appearance of the monster, he turned out to be quite agile, and when Khan was still able to catch the monster, he bit Khan on the hand, and he undertakes to use his strength to the fullest to finish him off. After Khan hit the monster on the head, he fell, from which the monster stopped, lost consciousness, and broke into many small fragments, leaving behind an unknown medallion, which was the reward for the test, B-grade wrought iron pendant, which contained the soul of the once great blacksmith. Also, the pendant had a bunch of useful skills, among which were an increase in sword skills and a unique effect of steel protection. Khan activated the suspension effect, which increased defense and some combat indicators. Khan was delighted with such a useful item since among the items of Ranka, there were those that were significantly inferior to this artifact. But despite such useful buffs, this pendant very quickly absorbed all the wearer's mana. Then Khan decides to use it only in emergency situations. After that, Khan decides to see what has changed in his unique stat after rank up. However, he was interrupted by a message about the readiness of the 7th test, which at first surprised Khan because before it was always displayed for some time after the tests, although this pleased Khan a little because now you can immediately go to new tests. At the same time, Khan decides to check in the community if others have lost the waiting time for the next test, and as it turned out, it disappeared for everyone, but almost everyone simply did not pay due attention to it. Khan also noticed that, after the last test, the situation in the community became calmer. Apparently some applicants deliberately escalate the situation precisely when it is known that the next test will be combined. After the community, Khan nevertheless looked into the parameters of the unique characteristic, and with additional effects, another one appeared that allowed using the accumulated souls as a protective shell. Han immediately decides to test the new effect in practice by throwing the sword into the air so that the blade hits the arm. Upon being thrown, the effect was instantly triggered, absorbing all incoming damage and costing one absorbed soul to do so. Han decides not to consume all the souls and has a few in reserve so that he can use the effect more often. Khan then opens the leaderboard to see if the position of the applicants has changed somehow and notices that someone was able to overtake him, and now he was in 4th place. Khan was not very upset by this because in order to retain the title of pioneer, it was enough for him to be in a position above 50th. After all this, Khan decides not to waste time and immediately go to the next test. The theme of the 7th trial was proof, which required completing 3 trials in 40 minutes, and the skill rank win grace was offered as a reward. After leaving the waiting room, Khan found himself in some strange and eerie corridor reminiscent of the corridor of an old abandoned castle in which there was absolutely no one except Khan. At the end of this corridor, Khan saw a bright glow, entering which Khan was transported to the very desert that was in his first test, where Khan must now overcome his fears. Golem appeared from under the sand, which this time was much larger than the one in the first test. After the golem tries to stab Khan, he jumps on his arm, runs all the way to his head with the goal of finding the golem's core. However, when Khan examined the golem from above, the core was nowhere to be found. Before Khan has landed, the golem manages to catch Khan and hold him in his palm, but Khan managed to get out of his hand, trying to just cut the golem into small pieces. As Khan expected, this method of fighting is not very effective. Then the golem got angry and jumped into the sky to provoke a giant wave of sand, which Han could not dodge. After Khan was able to recover from such an attack, he decides to use the ultimate shooting skill, which increases the cutting power of the sword with each subsequent blow. After inflicting several blows under the skill, Khan was able to cut off the golem's hand thanks to the paladin, whose killing gave Khan this skill. Without stopping a series of his attacks, Khan decided to try to cut the golem into several parts under the action. But this time the golem became much smaller, and Khan calls him a cutie, which made the golem even a little embarrassed. Han decides to continue slicing the golem until its core is visible, and after several such slicing steps, Khan is finally able to see the golem's core on his back. Khan immediately went behind the golem and delivered a powerful piercing blow to the core, after which the core split and the golem lost its shape and crumbled. After that, the first test was successfully passed, and a bright glow appeared not far from Khan, which began to suck Khan, and until he was sucked in, he decided to absorb the soul of the golem. But he did not have time to do this and failed to complete the absorption. After that, the Khan appeared in the orc village where the second test of the Khan took place, and now he had to prove that he had become wiser. As soon as the Khan left the orc chieftain's dwelling, he saw the orc settlement that he set fire to last time was burning, and how several orc hunters could be seen in the distance who had returned to their village. The orcs turned their attention to the Khan and were seized with rage, under which they immediately attacked the Khan. After Khan activated several of his skills, he began to exterminate all the orcs. After that, one orc remained who out of hopelessness bowed the knee before the Khan. At this time, Khan approached the orc that in this situation he could not change anything. Orc, after such words, in a fit of rage, tried to attack Khan, but in the next moment, Khan neutralizes the last orc. After that, the second test was counted as passed, and a bright cloud of light again appeared next to the Khan, which began to attract the Khan, and this time he manages to absorb the souls of the fallen orcs, thereby improving some of his combat skills. After completing the second test, Khan does not appear at the location of the third test as he expected, but at the location of the sixth test in the middle of the sea. Also, as soon as he was at the location, a life potion appeared in his inventory, taking which he could restore a certain amount of strength and mana. Khan immediately drank the entire contents of the flask without any thought and foolishly threw the flask directly into the sea, after which the sea emissions began to destroy the road behind Khan. In an attempt to move away from the raging sea, Khan used all his skills that increased the speed of movement and tried to run as far as possible to the nearest stronghold. However, while Khan was running away, the water sharply raised the road slab, to which he managed to run and thereby slowing him down, and Khan got water which lowered some of his indicators, including the speed of movement, which greatly complicated Khan's situation. At this time, Han activated instant acceleration, which at least slightly allowed him to continue moving on the plates. Khan was soon able to find the nearest stronghold, hoping that this would all end soon. Immediately after that, a powerful water jet was directed at Khan's back, which was supposed to cause serious damage to him. Luckily for Khan, the soul damage absorption effect was activated, allowing him to survive such a serious blow. Khan also decided to activate his suspension for higher resistance to such impacts. After that, Khan continued his movement to the strong point. Unfortunately, the cloak speed-up effect expired and Khan's movement speed was somewhat reduced. Afterwards, Khan decides to consume one of the absorbed souls in order to restore his mana pool, and as soon as Khan almost managed to reach the strong point, the water raised the last slab, forming a kind of wall into which Khan decides to plunge, and as soon as he gained a certain height, he flew out of the jet and began to fall. When it lands on a base plate from a very high altitude, landing from which it is impossible to survive, its unique stat creates a protective shell to prevent a lethal landing at the cost of one soul from the pool. After Khan arrived at the stronghold, proving that he had overcome his doubts, the test was completely passed, and upon returning to the waiting room, he received the Grace of the Wind skill, 15,000 points, and C-rank speed boots as an additional reward. Khan was haunted by the thought that he was as close as ever to failure and that in future tests his ear was unlikely to be the same as before. There were several reports to Khan about system expansion, skill unlock permanent return, and activation of the floor introduction system, but the most important thing was that now all applicants with the status of pioneers now have the choice of Halo, which will significantly increase the current indicators of applicants. Halo selection board appeared in front of Khan, among which there were a ruler, a hunter, and a monk to choose from. The halo of the ruler was universal and strongly dependent on the unique characteristic of the wearer. It also increased stats such as combat skills progression rate, support skills, and production efficiency. Also, the carrier received a unique power, the synthesis of skills. The hunter's halo was also universal and it was already associated with skills and a unique stat. In addition, this halo significantly increased the level of mastery and stats of the owner. In addition, the wearer received a unique level of power. The halo of the monk was that the more the owner invested, the stronger he becomes, which in turn required talent and perseverance. This halo also gave the wearer a unique power of practice. Khan immediately discarded the idea of taking the halo of a monk and began to choose between the halo of a ruler and the halo of a hunter. After carefully choosing which halo Khan would continue to face further trials with, he settled on the halo of the ruler. After the Khan chose the halo of the ruler, his unique characteristic underwent a process of evolution, during which it received an additional ability that makes it possible to summon absorbed souls in the form of battle skeletons. Khan also received a bonus to leveling the talents of the sword, magic, and item creation in a 3-fold increase in the corresponding abilities. After taking the King's Halo, Khan was introduced to the power of skill synthesis, in which Khan could select 2 skills and combine to create a completely new unique skill. Khan opened the skill window and decided to combine the 2 most rarely used skills, which turned out to be the F-rank Scorn for the weak skill, the F-rank Continued Battle skill, and started creating a new skill. Upon completion of the synthesis, Khan gained a new skill, D-rank Forced Breakthrough, which allowed him to break through various forms of restraint if the owner's magic level was higher than the magic level of the restrained power. Han was pleased with the new skill and tried synthesizing another skill by selecting F-rank Ranger training in F-rank Burn Resistance skills, and after synthesizing, he obtained the GI rank Strong Eye skill, giving the wearer's vision sharpening. Khan suggested that those skills that are combined with each other give a more useful skill in contrast to those skills that are worse combined with each other.